What to expect in the week after you find out that your husband has a porn habit. I'm Dr. Trish Leigh. I'm going to tell you what that week is likely going to look like. Okay, so let's back up just a minute to when you discover that your husband has a porn habit. And I'm going to use the word habit here, but likely if you're watching this video, you know that it's more than just a habit. And the way that a porn habit develops into an addiction is just like this: porn use, porn misuse, which means watching it too much, starting to watch it to soothe pain instead of just feeling like it for a little bit of pleasure. Then porn abuse. This is when being in the real world becomes more difficult and your husband or your partner is thinking about getting back to the porn because that's actually making him feel better than anything in the real world, which leads to a porn addiction. Now, an addiction it's no longer a compulsion, and it's no longer just something that he feels like doing. He has to. That's why I use the snappy little adage of control your brain or it will control you, because when we move along that continuum from use to misuse to abuse to addiction, that's no longer within your husband's control. His brain has him locked in to go back for more and more and more. Okay, so what you're likely going to experience is a direct reflection of that. And that's why I'm going through it. Because if you decide to call your husband out on his habit and address the situation with him, thinking you're going to be talking to a logical, rational person, the husband that you married, you are not going to get him likely. Likely, you are going to get the addiction. So if you find yourself in a conversation with your husband and you are thinking to yourself, what is going on and who am I talking to? I don't even know who that is right now. That's the addiction. And that's why I consider there to be 3 people in the relationship with a sex addict: you, your husband, and the addiction that has taken over his brain. So when you call him out on the habit, you are likely going to get the addiction answering your questions, which is why the first thing that tends to happen is on the part of the addict or the person who's using porn as a habit, your husband, your spouse, he will likely justify his use. Everybody watches porn. Minimize his use. It's not that big of a deal. Rationalize his use. If we had sex more often, or if the kids weren't always around, I wouldn't have to go do that. Those are the most common responses you're going to get when you start to talk about porn with your partner. It is not rational. And what it leads to is gaslighting. So, and I feel very bad for the men, and I know a lot of people don't feel me on this, but as a trained professional in this area, knowing that addiction has hijacked his brain, he is going to gaslight you. But that's the addiction. The addiction is trying to get you to think that you're crazy so it can stay alive. And if you want your partner back and you want your life back and your relationship back, you have to begin to view it as it's me trying to get my husband back out of this conversation so that he and I can address the addiction together. Because if it's just you against the addiction, you have no hope of being successful. But if you can get your husband to see that this thing has a hold on him, you have a much higher likelihood of making it out alive in your current relationship. Okay, which leads me to the next thing that you are going to experience in this first week. It is going to be that your self-worth is likely going to tank. So first of all, you're going to be shocked. Now you're having this interaction that just makes absolutely no sense to you. You also now have a secret, and many women, they don't like secrets. Never mind secrets of this terrible thing is going on in their relationship, and it is terrible. He may have minimized and justified and rationalized to you, but go to fightthenewdrug.org it is, or truthaboutporn.org, and you will learn that this hijacked brain is terrible and it leads to much worse problems in relationships. This is not a habit. This is serious business. Okay, so your self-worth is likely going to tank because now you're competing with pixels. You might be a 40-year-old woman competing with images of 18-year-old girls. You can't compete. In your mind, you can't compete. But I want you to understand it has absolutely nothing to do with who he's watching or what he's watching. It has to do with the dopamine dump in his brain. His brain is in pain. And we know that people who are more likely to develop a full-blown porn addiction are those who have trauma from their early childhood. So think about your partner, and if there's neglect or if there's even verbal abuse, especially if there's sexual abuse or physical abuse in his childhood, that has made it that he has pain in there, pain in the brain. And the pain in the brain drives him towards something to help him ease that pain that was never resolved from childhood. It's inner child work, and we can get there in different videos. But understand, say to yourself, say affirmations, write down all the things that you're proud of about yourself, because your self-worth is going to tank. And it is part of the dynamic, because science proves that if your husband watches porn, he will be less attracted to you, and he'll find you less attractive, even if you are a superstar model, which has happened before, by the way. Think of Tiger Woods, absolutely gorgeous wife. He had a sex addiction and he's out there with other women. So it's not about you. Just know this, it's not about you. But your self-worth is going to tank. So you need the right help. It's time to get a coach to help you, because this is not an easy peasy journey to navigate. And the way that you can make it out alive in your current relationship, hopefully, and with your family intact, is to have the right help as you deal with this thing head on. That's why a coach or a counselor who is trained in sex addiction and pornography addiction is absolutely essential, because it will be a long journey that will likely end in demise if you don't have the right support. Okay, I hope this answers your question. And remember, control your brain or it'll control you.